Welcome to Voice It, a podcast showcasing people in the Clare Valley and the mid-north of South Australia who've started their own businesses from scratch and have turned them into success stories. This is a chance for them to tell you their story. I'm your host, Annabelle Homer.
Hi Annabelle, welcome to Mickelloo.
Thank you, Nikki. Thanks so much for having me here at Mickelloo today. This is the first time I've been here and it's absolutely stunning.
Oh, thank you so much. Can I offer you a glass of champagne or a coffee?
I'd love that. Thank you. I'd love a champagne if that's possible.
Sure, let me just go and pop that for you. But first, let me give you a little bit of a brief description of the studio here. This is our styling and fashion room. Next door, we have our accessories room. And then there's a little homewares room out the back.
Oh, I can't wait to get stuck into your story. Let's get that bottle of champagne popped and let's get stuck into it.
Fabulous, I can't wait.
This is the super vivacious, creative individual Nicky White, the founder of Mickelloo. From her humble beginnings as a marching girl in her youth, meeting her farmer husband Joel at a gym party at the Palace nightclub, to moving to the Clare Valley and delving into her own business ventures, Nicky is not short of a story. From being a Nutrimetics consultant to running her own Weight Watchers group to then delving into jewellery design and fashion, this woman does not shy away from a challenge. Nicky is a self-taught jewellery maker and fashion designer. From hand-stamped jewellery to designing and making scardis to now running her own on-farm fashion boutique. Once considered a hobby, it is now a full-blown successful business. She's selling her designs right across Australia and overseas. Strap yourself in. This is Nicky's story. Okay, we've sat down. We're sitting amongst all this beautiful jewellery. Nicky, you are an absolute talent. Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure to invite you here.
Okay, let's start from the very beginning. Where did life begin for you?
I grew up at St Agnes, which is like near Tea Tree Gully, so sort of just below the foothills of the Adelaide Hills, and we had a really big block. I lived right next door to St Agnes Primary School, so we had 3/4 of an acre, a creek. I've got a sister and a brother. I'm the eldest of three. My sister was 19 months younger than me, and then my brother came along a couple of years later, Tani and Kurt. And we were all pretty close. So me and my sister Tani shared a bedroom and we were, not inseparable, but we were very close, but also very, very different personalities growing up.
And what about your parents? What did your parents do for a living?
So mum was a home mum, just a really present mum, really there for us after school, before school, middle of school, because we lived next door to the school. We used to just yell over the fence if we decided we needed a pie or a pasty at lunchtime, or it was pretty hot and we just wanted a Super Duper out of the freezer. So poor mum, she got used to being yelled at over the fence.
Oh, but how cool for a kid though.
Yeah,
to live next door to the school.
It was good, especially if you weren't feeling the best during the day or things. You just sort of knew mum was there. So it was a little bit of security, I think, for me. My dad was a carpenter builder, so he built our house and had a big focus on work. So he was definitely what I would class as a workaholic. Me and mum did a lot together. Mum was really supportive when I got a little bit older and started sport. Mum got super involved. I think just the unfortunate thing was that Dad's focus was very different, and that came from his upbringing, I think. They grew up in very different families.
Let's talk about you. What were you like as a kid?
Well, I was very bubbly, very energetic, very outgoing.
Oh, couldn't imagine.
I loved making friends, very empathetic. I liked people to like me. My whole life I've discovered that is something that's really important to me, something that I hold really highly. I found it really easy to make friends, and I really liked to work hard if people showed an interest in me. So I made really good connections with all my teachers, and if I felt like they were interested in what I was doing, I was always out to strive for my best because I wanted them to be impressed by what I could do.
So what were you like at school? Were you clever? Were you sporty? Were you musical?
I definitely wasn't musical, can I say that? I was probably fairly average. I know in high school, if I look back, I finished 3 of my subjects with the highest score you could get. So if I applied myself, I was fairly intelligent. I was definitely not sporty as we refer to running or athletics or netball, but I was a marching girl. So for 11 years, that was my chosen sport, which I think shaped me or brought out my personality traits more.
Can you tell me what a marching girl is?
Yes, I get asked this a lot. It's been a long time since I've thought about it, but for 11 years. So when I was about 7, Mum said to me, would you like to do a sport? So my first reaction was, well, what did you do, Mum? And my mum was a marching girl when she was younger. So I said, oh, what's that? What do they do? Mum was so good because she said, well, let me show you what they do. So she took me along to the end of season presentation at a hall. All these young girls running around, getting trophies, getting medals, super friendly. They played a little bit of a video. I saw these people out there doing technical things on an oval, like routines, and
it's not like cheerleading.
It's not like cheerleading, so it's not a dance routine. So there is a lot of technical aspect to marching. It's a certain way that you hold your wrists and your alignment and your posture and how the muscles in your body work to be able to get the best result and present really well.
And is it timing and walking in unison and all that type of thing?
Absolutely. And I am a killer for unison. Like, I love everything to look amazing. I joined this club. We were called the Valley Royals. It welcomed me in. So you have a leader and you have 9 girls behind you. So there's generally a team of about 10. Anyway, I enjoyed it.
How do you think it shaped you, considering you did it for 11 years?
I think the thing I got out of it the most was the friendships. They could never find me when it was time to compete because I'd be off speaking to the competitor about something else completely. But the discipline, if I was given a role, I had to prove that the reason I was given that role. And I don't know if that makes sense, but after my first year of marching, they actually chose me to lead the team. Mum was horrified. I remember her saying to me, oh my gosh, why have they done that? That's just going to put a lot of pressure on you. And she said, so you've got a couple of options. You can either say no, but if you say yes, you want to do this, you have to just prove that you were the right choice. I really felt like I could do it. And I felt that was my personality. I think that if I was given a challenge, I'm either all in or I'm all out in everything that I do. So back then I was only 9 when I was given this opportunity, and we were having the national championships in Tasmania, and I practiced every night in the lounge room. I think I wore like a track up and down our carpet, and my mum became a judge. So she became involved as well. And that was great because technically she understood all the judging sheets and she could say to me, this is what they've said they've seen, this is what we need to get better at. I realised that I really liked structure. I like to know what's going on and have that bit of structure, which I can really see how that's played out in my life, especially now. But yeah, so we've got to Tasmania and I'm leading this team and I'm 9. So I don't really have any fear. And I just want to do well, and I've practiced my heart out. So Mum always said that if you practice enough, it will just come out on the day. So you just don't have to be too worried. And my grandma, my nana, came over as part of the helping team for our club. And I remember her saying to me, if you win, would you like something? And I said, I just want a Tasmanian Devil t-shirt, Nana. And she said, well, if you win, I'll buy you one. So I've come off the field and I've done this really amazing job of what I needed to put on the field, and I was really excited, and all I had to say to Nan was, do I get the t-shirt? That's all I wanted. Didn't really matter about the medal, and I wish that I could have bottled that non-fear moment in my life, because then I felt like as I got older, the competition part got harder because I'd get in my own head and I was probably my own worst enemy. And you can see, even in my kids, I can see that they don't worry about the things they worry about when they get older.
Did you get the shirt? Did you win?
I won.
Oh!
Australian champion. So that was so
awesome.
exciting. And then, and so it was amazing. But the best part about marching for me was at the end of the day when you'd get up and they'd do the medal presentation, I didn't care if I got first, second or third. I hoped I'd be up there somewhere. But I was the first one to shake everyone's hand. And I was literally happy no matter who won. It was just about competing and doing the best. And then, you're competitive on the field, but off the field, you just make amazing friends. So it was a big part of my life.
You're the first marching girl I have ever met. When did you realise you had a bit of an artistic flair?
Not really until after I became a mum, if I've got to be really honest. So, like when I left high school, I decided I was going to be a teacher. And I went to university and I was going to be a high school teacher majoring in accountancy. I know.
Wow.
I really enjoyed accounting and I really enjoyed business maths. And so my teachers, I thought, wow, they've really encouraged me. So I'm going to, have a go at this. And I got to uni and I just could not structure myself around university program. I just really struggled with committing and being self-disciplined, to be quite honest.
Because at school, everything was in routine.
Absolutely.
Everything was, yeah.
So I got through 6 months and I remember going to mum and going, not having fun. And she was so great. And she just went, if you're not loving it, stop now before your HECS debt gets too big. What do you want to do? And I said, I think I'll go to secretarial school. So I enrolled in a secretarial school in Adelaide on King William Street.
Before you talk about that, where did you go to high school?
Modbury High School.
Okay. Go back to secretarial school.
So we went to secretarial school, met a gorgeous group of girls. I was actually living at my grandparents' place down at Warradale at the time, so I'd catch the train and we had to do some work experience. So the course, I think, was only 6 months long, but I got some work experience and I managed to land myself a job at MLC Insurance on Pirie Street, and they said, we'll take you on a work experience on switchboard. And when I did the work experience, they then said, good, could you stay? So I didn't actually finish my course, didn't even get my certificate, because once I had a job, I was like putting all of my effort into that, and it was exhausting. I found it exhausting to start with, and I was probably there for maybe 18 months and they offered me a transfer to Brisbane. They said, we have to make some people redundant, but we can offer you a transfer. And there was a little group of us that decided we would all go to Brisbane for an experience. So the company just moved me up there for free, paid for the whole move, found me accommodation, and I lived with this lovely couple in Brisbane for the next 6 months.
And how old were you at this time?
I was 19.
Moving away at 19.
Yeah.
You must have been pretty good at your job, Nicky. For them to invest in you like that at the age of 19, they must have seen promise.
So, I'm not sure. I was doing a lot of different little roles up there, but I really enjoyed the people and I think I was fairly easygoing. And so back in Adelaide, my dad's mum was really sick. And just hearing how sick she was with cancer, I started to feel quite homesick.
Is that the Tassie Devil grandma?
So no, the other grandma. Okay. So yeah, the other nana, and I was missing mum. I know it killed mum for me to leave and go up there. She was so good at encouraging me, but it was scary for her to let go. I came back and MLC offered me a transfer back, all prepaid. So I moved back to the Adelaide office, and then that's roughly the time when I was 20, I met Joel.
So how did you meet Joel? Where did you meet Joel?
At the Planet nightclub on Pirie Street on a Sunday night at a gym party.
A gym party?
A gym party. It was not the gym I went to, but a lovely girl that I worked with, she went to this gym and she was very desperate for me to go and keep her company and go along to this Sunday Christmas party at the Planet nightclub. The reason Joel was at the Planet nightclub was one of his best friends was a gym instructor. Maddie lived in Adelaide. Joel clearly lived in the Clare Valley as a farmer. And so Maddie had said, why don't you come with me to this gym party?
And so do you remember the first conversation you had?
Well, at the time, we were standing at the bar. Now, I will make this very clear. I was the driver. So I was definitely on the water. That my girlfriend and me were standing at the bar, and this gentleman just rocked up to us and started talking very confidently. A really big burly guy. It was Matt. He just said, hi, how are you going? And I thought, oh my gosh, who is this guy that Alice knows? Little did I know that Alice was thinking, who is this guy that Nicky knows? Because he was just like, we thought one of us must have known him. And he said, I'd like you to meet my mates. So there was two other guys. One of them was Joel. We got introduced. We were very polite. We said hello, and then we sort of wandered towards the dance floor. And that's when they followed us to the dance floor and thought they would show us their moves, which was very, very funny. And then we just started up a conversation. We went to the bar to get Joel another drink, and he said to me, "You have the most amazing blue eyes." And I said, "It's very dark. How can you tell they're blue?" So I was very questioning to start with. And then we ended up going and having coffee and cheesecake on Rundle Street.
Oh, that night?
That night, yes.
And just blossomed from there?
Really, it did. I didn't actually think he would ring. And 2 weeks later, the phone rang and it was Joel.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
He took 2 weeks?
2 weeks. Well, he told me he'd been trying to ring, but the phone always was engaged. We were a very chatty family on the phone. I was surprised. I didn't think anything would come of it, but I think that's when you're least expecting it, sometimes when things happen.
Did you know anything about farming?
Absolutely nothing. Didn't even have an idea of what to expect when I visited the farm at all.
And so what was your first impression when you did visit the farm? And had you been to the Clare Valley before?
Never been to the Clare Valley. And the funny story is the day that I decided, it was a Friday evening after work, and I was finally invited to come up. I'd been waiting. I was probably only really after about 10, 12 weeks after we'd met, but I'd been anticipating. And I'm driving and I've missed the Clare turn-off and I've driven nearly to Blanchetown. No idea. When I got to the Clare main street, it was pitch black. Joel had a cold pizza in the car and a bottle of very hot champagne by then. And then I had to follow him on these dirt roads, didn't know where I was going to the farm. So it was a little bit daunting, a little bit overwhelming, but we'd been on a few dates and I felt really comfortable around him. So I thought I was going to be safe. So, yeah.
So how quickly was it then that you guys got serious and you moved to the farm?
So we dated for 2 years, back and forth. So I think we missed seeing each other for 2 weekends out of 2 years. And those weekends were horrendous. Both of us were like, that wasn't fun. So then I sort of said to Joel, how about I move up to Clare? And he said, okay. And then I started looking for a job. And I didn't really want to leave Adelaide till I had a position in Clare. And that was tricky.
Are you still with the MLC or?
No, I'd been working for Radio 5AA for a little while by then.
Oh.
Yeah. I'd done a couple of different positions. I had a couple of different positions at MLC. And then one of the temps that was working with one of the financial advisors was filling in at 5AA, and she mentioned to me they were looking for somebody. So I thought I'd try my hand, and I was main receptionist at 5AA. So I got to meet all the guests and have a lot of interaction with what actually happens at a radio station. I saw the best and the worst, I think, of people. It was a real eye-opener, but I left there as soon as I found a job in Clare. So I was a personal assistant to Brian McInerney at MGA Insurance.
Oh.
I was just fortunate that Brian was heavily involved in North Clare. Joel played football for North Clare, and so I'd met Brian before, and his personal assistant was going on maternity leave. And he said to me, I would be happy for you to come and work for me, but it might just be for a short time. But it was really hard to get a position when you're applying for positions and you don't live in a place. And, you know, they want commitment, and I could completely understand that. So I felt I was very, very grateful and really, really enjoyed my time at MGA.
So from that moment, when did Joel pop the question and you started your life together in that sense?
Well, the funny thing is Joel didn't pop the question, Annabelle.
Oh.
No, I waited and waited. So it was just over 4 years. I remember it was February 2000 and I used to also have a side business. I was a Nutrimetics consultant.
I remember Nutrimetics.
Yes. And I feel like it was the Barossa doing a Nutrimetics evening with a beautiful group of ladies. And it dawned on me on the way home that it was a leap year and it was the 29th of February. And I thought to myself, oh, I might just get home in time. Maybe I could propose to him. Rang Mum up and I was like, what do you think, Mum? I might go home and propose to Joel. And she said, well, what's going to happen if he says no? And I said, well, I'll see you tomorrow. I remember ringing on the phone and I said, oh, how are you going? How was your day? And he was talking to me, and it was obviously quite late. It must have been just before 11 o'clock. And anyway, I said, oh, well, I want to tell you all about my show when I get home. So make sure you stay up. I get home and it's about 11:45 and fussing around and got into the bedroom and he's sitting on the bed and everything. And then I said, oh, so how was your day? And he he starts chatting, and then I looked at the clock and I thought, my gosh, I've only got 10 minutes to do this. So I just said to him, shut up. I've only got 10 minutes, And then he looked at the clock and then he looked at me, and I can think that's when it dawned. And I was just like, this is what I want, like I can't imagine my life with anyone else. And he said yes straight away. And then we jumped up and down on the bed for a while. And then he said, what do you think we do now? And I said, God, I better ring Mum and tell her you said yes. So then we couldn't sleep. And I remember him saying, do you think we should just go and get a ring tomorrow? Yeah. So we were probably engaged then for 18 months before we got married. Then Ashley was born 2 years after that.
And how many children do you have?
Three.
Three
children.
Ashley,
Charlize, and William.
Let's venture into career. So you mentioned Nutrimetics, 5AA, MGA Insurance. You mentioned also that once you became a mother, the whole artistic flair came into being.
Yeah.
Can you explain what happened?
When Ashley was born, I actually started sewing. I did quite a bit of sewing. I joined a Stitch and Bitch group in Clare, like a group of amazing women, and we would just get together once a week. We were all mums, and it just gave us a little bit of our own time. And for me, that was really important because I love being a full-time mum, but it just gave me a little bit of a focus, once a week, and that bit of out because I wasn't playing any sport up here. Then when Charlize came along, she was actually not a very well, for her first 7-8 months. That was really, really stressful. They classed it as lactose intolerance. I think it was due to her body's way of processing milk and things like that just wasn't quite on, and we got onto a naturopath and a baby chiropractor, and it made a world of difference. It completely changed everything. And I felt like I was almost going to go into postnatal depression with her. I was trying to stay awake. She would vomit all day, and then at night time she would want to feed all night. And I remember one night just feeling like I was going to lose it. And I felt like, oh my God, I feel like just throwing this baby against the wall. And, I would never do anything like that. But I remember getting up in the morning and being so upset. And I just rang a friend who I knew had help with her kids, and I said, I just need to go. I need to make an effort. And I'm so grateful that I found someone that when I walked in the door, he just looked at me and said, does your baby do this, this and this? And I just burst into tears, and he could tell exactly. And so it was like having a baby fixer, which was amazing. And regularly we'd go down and see him. And so I feel like that was great because I felt like she was quite an anxious baby. And naturally I am a fixer. So if I can't fix something, I get very hard on myself. That meant that I was eating more food to stay awake at night, and all of a sudden I wasn't feeling great about myself. So at that point, this is a completely different tangent, I joined Weight Watchers. And I thought I needed to do something for myself. So I went and joined the Riverton Weight Watchers because that was our closest meeting point, and had a great journey there, loved the program. When I got to my goal weight and was feeling really good, they came to me and said, would you be interested in running a Weight Watchers in Clare? So together with another friend of mine, Linda Stanway, we opened Weight Watchers Clare when Charlize was 1. And thank gosh I had the support of my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law, because they would come and look after Ashley and Charlie, and we would head off to the meeting. And we had the biggest opening Weight Watchers meeting in Australia ever.
Oh, really?
We had 95 women turn up to our first meeting. It got really big coverage. It was incredible. I think that we were just lacking something to support women that felt like they were in a rut, or they just wanted to know they weren't alone, and they just wanted some tools and to be held accountable. And so that was amazing. I still get women stop me in Woolworths now and go, I remember, I wish she was still doing that.
So how long did you run that program for, the Weight Watchers program in Clare?
That was a couple of years, and then I pulled out. My sister-in-law became very, very sick, and I'd sort of come to the end of that and thought there was something else that I needed to be doing. So that's when Ashley was nearly about to go to school, and then I got involved in St Joe's when Ashley started school.
So as I said at the start of the interview, we are surrounded by your beautiful jewellery, and this is, as you say, it's your accessories room. Let's talk about your hand stamped jewellery, because I presume that's where it all began.
It did.
Is that right?
Yeah. I purchased a necklace when the girls were little offline with the girls' names on it, thinking that that was going to be a great present for me. The hand stamped jewellery at the time was really big. It was really in, and I really loved rustic jewellery, like things that didn't look perfect. So I found this online website, and I loved these little square tags, and it arrived in the mail, and I remember opening it and sort of having to look really closely because it was really small. And I remember putting it on and thinking, I don't really feel like this is me. Like, it doesn't really match my personality. Christmas was coming closer, and Joel said to me, what would you like for Christmas? And I couldn't really think of anything that I needed. And then I said to him, do you know what? I would really like to make myself a necklace that I feel like is me. And I think I'm going to buy a steel block and some silver and a hammer and some stamps. Would that be okay? And he was like, yeah, if you want to try that.
There must have been something within you that knew, oh yeah, I can do this.
I didn't have anything to lose. That's my opinion on when I have a go at something. If I don't like it, I don't have to do it. So, well, how hard can this be? I watched a few tutorials. I was off and running. So I made this necklace. I was really happy with it. It felt a lot more like me. And of course, I showed a few friends and it snowballed, and they were like, could you make one for me? That's how the hand stamped jewellery started.
What's happened since then?
Oh, wow.
So much has happened.
So much has happened. Yeah. Then I decided, actually, I was on the committee at St. Joe's. I was running the craft stall for the yearly
the fete. Yes.
And I got really invested in that. So I used to do lots of research of how we could make money for the school and the parish. And I was a bit of a scrapbooker and a bit of a journaler on the side. That sort of came after the sewing. And I loved writing about things, and I loved text, and I loved paper. So I decided that I would have a go at making some necklaces for the little girls for the fete. And I made this owl necklace. It was terrible. But I put it on a bit of ribbon and I hung it in my kitchen, and a girlfriend of mine popped in who was very classy, had amazing style. And she said to me, what's that? And I said, well, this is my prototype for the fete, and don't worry, it's terrible. And she said to me, oh, I'd actually buy that. And I was like, I'm sure I can do better. So like my normal, self, I went back to the drawing board and did it again and again. And I ended up making these beautiful little wooden necklaces that were very individual. They were made from paper and cardboard. I decided I'd put little charms on them, put them on a chain, put some beads on them. I decided that I could maybe make some jewellery that was really long-lasting jewellery that looked really, really cute. And so it started off being a little bit of a kid's range. And it got lots of compliments. I can't really recall exactly when I picked up my first piece of leather and thought, I will cut something out of that. I remember deciding I wanted to cut something with a feather in it, and I don't recall why. I think it was that I was right into birds. I really liked that sort of thing. So I remember cutting a piece of leather and thinking, I'm going to try to cut this feather. And it looked terrible. It didn't even look like a feather. And I remember saying to Charlize, thought I would make myself a pair of these earrings, but look at this. And she said to me, I think you should have another try. And I was like, no, I don't think I'm very good at it. And she said, well, how do you know unless you try?
Oh, here we go.
And so, yeah, exactly. So then I was like, oh my gosh, I must have done a good job here. I've taught her to remind me to go back to the drawing board. Then our jewellery range really started. I would love to have a necklace that literally I could wear every day for a whole year and it still looked the same. So that became my benchmark. I really wanted to find things that were sustainable. So I decided that leather was a great product for me. I loved the smell of it. I liked the feel of it. I liked the fact that it lasted a long time. And I discovered that I could stamp on stainless steel, which was a lot cheaper than obviously stamping on silver, and also didn't need to be cleaned. And so I sort of brought the two together in a lot of my pieces. And yeah.
And when did it start? What year?
So 2010 was when I registered my business name. So about 8-9 years ago now, we brought fashion into the studio as well.
And on that, you mentioned that you had a friend that had a great style.
Yeah.
I mean, you do too. You have got beautiful style. Have you always loved fashion?
Certainly not.
Okay.
I was the biggest tomboy. Oh my gosh. I remember my sister coming home from school and saying, how embarrassing, Mum. I was at school today and someone said to me, does your sister even brush her hair? And what is that she was wearing? And there I was in my summer sandals and my winter dress. If I was going to wear a dress, generally it was jeans. I was forever climbing a fence or a tree. I had no sense of style whatsoever. I wore this pink beret for God knows how long that Mum said went with nothing. And I was just my own person. I think I had a sense of style, but it was just nothing that looked good. Probably.
But in your mind, you thought it did. That's all that matters.
It wasn't important. It was just me having like fun and, like if only we could bottle that part in a way, because that's quite creative and imaginative. But when I was probably 15, I got a job at 14, my first part-time job. So at about 15, I think I started to indulge a little bit more in the fashion stakes and spend all my pay. I didn't save anything, much to my father's disgust. Mum was encouraging. So Dad used to look horrified and say to me, what? And Mum used to just sit there and smile because I was so rebellious with that.
So tell me about the scardis.
Designing accessories, I then thought to myself, I really love fashion, but I don't know what I'm doing with a pattern. I wanted to create something people could wear that was a little bit of a fashion accessory on the body, that was just going to add confidence to someone's look. Just cover the areas that they weren't so confident in. So that's how the scardi all came about. So I started to buy in pieces of rectangular fabric and then came up with a special way to stitch them. So they would sit a little bit like an open vesty jacket. You could wear them open, you could tie them over swimmers, you could tie them into a vest, and then best of all, you could actually make them into a scarf. So they had multiple ways that you could wear them, and they came in all different prints. So for women that were very much t-shirt and jeans wearers, it added a pop of colour and a bit of confidence, and then they could take it to a resort and they didn't feel like they needed to stand there bearing all in their swimwear. They could pop on their scardi and feel really good. And also it was a really unique gift to give to someone that had everything that was hard to buy for.
How was it taken up?
Oh, amazing. I did a lot of marketing. So that was where my business really started. I took my accessories, my hand stamped jewellery and my scardis and went to the markets. Didn't really have any major goals, just cover my costs, buy more. And it was my little project. It was definitely a hobby when it all started.
So when did it get to a point where it was more of a money-making business and you thought, oh, wow, I can really ramp this up and really make some decent coin from it, I guess? That's
probably the most interesting question, because I've never viewed my business as being a big money spinning business, or I've never set myself a financial goal of how much it's got to make. When I first started back in 2010, I borrowed $10,000 from the farm, and at the end of 2010, I gave the money back to the farm and then went, it doesn't matter now, as long as I don't run at a loss, I'm on my own. So I was very lucky that Joel was really supportive and didn't say to me, well, you have to, out of your business, this is what you need to cover, because it started feeling like a hobby. So I can't tell you the time really that it got to before I thought, oh, this is definitely more of a business. Clearly it's more of a business now than what it was. Started off doing like the market thing. So for me, that was very hobby-ish. Then I started having women wanting to come to the house, and we added a bit of fashion. The fashion we added was just to go under the scardi. So it was literally a range of basics that we would just put under the scardi. And then it felt like I could sell the scardi because the ladies had a t-shirt or a little sundress, like a little sort of cotton dress they could wear under it, and that would sell the scardi for me. So that was great, still a hobby. Until I've gone to Adelaide on a Saturday morning with Joel, walked into a boutique at College Park. 2 women offered me a glass of champagne and they said to me, what do you do? And I was shopping in their boutique and I said, oh, well, I make jewellery. And they said, oh, you're dressed lovely. And I said, oh, thank you. I said, lots of my customers ask me where I get my fashion from. I'm really excited to buy some pieces from you. And they gave me a business card of a fashion agent and they said, you should be getting fashion yourself. And I'm very, very grateful. They were very encouraging and they didn't have to be. They had their own boutique. They could have just sold me a few pieces. And the possibilities, like it was just like, oh my gosh.
And you haven't stopped since?
No. And so I got fashion into the house. And the fashion was in the house, and we were living in a realm of fashion. Literally, I was cooking, watching fashion. I was watching TV, watching fashion. The sunroom was all my accessories were in the sunroom. I had women come, so it would be, I had, to clean up after the animals, the farmer, the 3 children, welcome the women in the door. And I liked it to look nice, so it was a big job. So I did that for quite some time, until 6 years ago, when I just happened to say to Farmer Joel, what do you think about converting the car shed into a studio?
Oh, so this used to be a car shed?
This was our car shed.
Oh my goodness.
And he said, I don't think so. And I said, I've just got the builder coming to give me a quote. I'll pay for it. I'd saved up some money. I was like, I can pay for it. Here's my budget. And so I had the lovely Dale Agars come out and meet with me, and Dale saw my vision, that's for sure. He had really good ideas of what we could do to keep this place looking rustic, authentic, but just to bring it to that next warming, like welcoming level. And so I worked with Dale for months and months and painted to get this place to where it is now. And we opened the doors.
Over the last 15 years, what have been the challenges in business for you?
Sole business trading can be really lonely. You're making a lot of decisions on your own, and you have the days where you feel really confident that you've made the right decisions. But if you don't get enough sleep or you're not feeling great, there's a lot of self-doubt. And I've had many a day. This is my 3rd year that I have actually working with a business coach. Just the best decision I ever made. Her business is called Work Life Mama, and she's in Victoria. And she was actually, way back in the day, an influencer at the beginning of Instagram. And she actually took photos and talked about a label that I was buying. And I'd watched her, and I remember feeling it was October a couple of years ago, feeling like really in my own head and feeling full of self-doubt and thinking, is this something I want to do? I'm tired and I don't know if this is for me anymore. And then on her Instagram popped this free little seminar. And I remember looking at it and thinking, I might just have a look at this. And I just listened on Zoom one night, and everything she spoke about was everything I was feeling. And so I just signed up for a 6-week Zoom course with her, and she has changed my life. And now I go to Victoria twice a year just to spend 2 weekends with her and a beautiful group of other mums in business. We all have really different businesses, but really we all have the same issues. We're all striving for our own form of success. I never really realised that what success looked like for me, for everyone's so different. But then I realised that what a successful business for me, or my successful life looked like, wasn't about how much money I made or what I had. It was about being a present mum and sticking to the things that were aligned with myself, like wanting to work from home. It was quite hard getting this studio open on a farm property. We had issues. We had to go to the council. We had a lot of things to work through because, it's hard to deem, a business that's like this, that's not going to be in a main street, I suppose. But I wanted it to be more of a destination store. I want it to be a shopping experience for people, that when they come out, not that means they have to buy anything when they come out, because, you go to plenty of stores and don't see what you're after. And it's never about the pressure sale. I want it to be an experience, the perfect shopping experience that I desire when I go somewhere, which is hard to find. I want to feel relaxed and warm and welcomed, but I want to feel like if I need help, someone's there. But if I want to be left on my own, I can be. I loved having a glass of champagne when I shop. That's like the ultimate. And to be able to ask for advice and get it if I want it, but to know I'm going to get a really honest opinion. And that's the other thing I get people tell me. I come back because I know you won't let me leave with something that you don't think I will wear or that looks good on me. And so that's the biggest compliment I can get.
What are you super proud of out of everything that you've done? And you have done so much in your 49 years.
I know the big 5-0's coming up.
Yeah. Is that this year or
yes,
next year?
Yes, this year, November.
Woohoo.
Yeah. I think I'm just really proud that I've followed my gut in all things I've done, and that anything I've done 100% as well. Just stayed true to myself. I'm just not that person that puts on anything. What you see is what you get. And I feel like, so that's what I'm proud of, I think, the most.
What is the future for Mickelloo? What plans do you still have for the future?
Well, we're very focused on 2025 at the moment. So right at this point, we are releasing a brand new jewellery collection for 2025. And I would have to say my best to date, like very excited by this. We've also consolidating our fashion labels. So we've brought in a couple of new fashion labels and we've taken out a few labels as well. So I feel like we're just getting better at streamlining the options for women and also making sure we're really size inclusive, which is really important to me. I basically take every year as it comes, to be quite honest.
So I can't ask you the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Oh gosh, no. Yeah.
Nikki, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you and getting to hear your story. And congratulations with everything that you've achieved over the last 15 years and beyond, actually, with everything else that you've done. Simply well done.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to talk to you today.
If you haven't visited Mickelloo, you must. She reduced her opening hours back in 2024 to give her more time to make her accessories. She's open every Friday and 2 Saturdays a month, and also by appointment. There's also one-on-one styling on offer for 6 months of the year. Hop onto Nikki's website to get all the details and to do some serious online shopping. She has some beautiful pieces. And of course, her website link is in my show notes. Thank you again, Nikki, for being so generous with your time. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to your story. If you enjoyed this episode, please review, share on social, spread the word, because next up we'll head into the world of tourism, where you'll get to know the story behind one of the Clare Valley's most successful tourism operators, Travel Wild Australia, owned and operated by Tim Grigg. Just before I sign off, a little bit about me and my business, Voice It. It's a communications business specialising in public speaking training, media training, podcasting, audio memoir production and MC work. I'm passionate about giving people the skills to be effective, engaging and memorable communicators, not just on stage, but in life, in general conversation. I'm a former ABC broadcast journalist and also have 12 years experience in Amy B speech and drama. I use those skills to bring you engaging and fun workshops and recording sessions to make you feel at ease and enjoy the process, because I get it. Public speaking can be daunting, but it doesn't have to be. Also, I'm happy to toot my own horn here. This year, I was a finalist in the AgriFutures Rural Women's Award in South Australia. A fantastic experience I encourage any woman to pursue if they have a business idea or a project that can make a difference to regional communities. That's enough about me. I'm Annabelle Homer. I'll catch you very soon for another episode of the Voice It podcast.